Hey, my name is Justin, and we are going to be going to the carnival today. Oh, sorry, the music is throwing me off. Today, we are going to be playing She Already Has Someone She Likes. This is a visual novel that was submitted for the Yuri Game Jam that is going on. All the submissions are done with, so I'm just going through and playing them all right now. And we are going to play this one today. I'm not sure what to expect. I think it's about 60 minutes long, so let's go ahead and get started. Against reason. Against promise, against peace, against hope, against happiness, and even against all discouragement that could be. Act 1. Come on, don't even try to deny it. It's written all over your face, you know? There's something in your eyes, a bashfulness that can't be so easily ascribed to anything else. Oh, to think that after this long, someone has finally managed to capture the heart of our precious Mai. But, like, you've kept us in the dark long enough, haven't you? Come on, who's the lucky guy? Yeah, now that we've found you out, you gotta tell us. As your friends, don't we, like, have a right to know? Now, don't think the two of you are acting in haste. I've told you before, I have no time for frivolous things like romance. The intent of high school is to further one's education, nothing more and nothing less. Besides, it would be quite wrong for someone of my standing to promote that kind of licentious behavior. Never heard of that word before. That's new to me. Oh, but I thought this time for sure. Ah, well, that's our Mai for you. Always prim and proper to a fault. And just when I thought she was starting to loosen up, there's no doubt that the two of you have let your minds wander to end. But, well, even if I put it like that, it's true. There's someone I like. Eh? I'm just imagining an anime character. Eh? I can't quite do it. Now all that's left is for her to take the bait. No way. There's seriously no way that Mai, of all people, you've got to be kidding me. There's definitely a god in this stupid messed up world of ours, and he's totally come here to laugh at me. Honestly. Well, a wise man once said that life is full of choices. Whether we make the right choice or not, that pales in comparison to whether we made any choice at all. And I'm just about out of options, so I may as well come out of hiding. But as soon as I step out from behind the lockers, as if on cue, her so-called friends flee the scene of the crime? Well, looks like someone sure took their sweet time getting here. Just how long did you plan on crouching behind the lockers anyways? You're not doing your back any favors, you know. Yeah, unlike Her Royal Highness, some of us have places to be, things to do. It's not my fault I have to attend to so many of my adoring fans. Oh, now don't tell me the novelty's finally worn off. 2 years ago, you would have given anything for this kind of star treatment, but in any case, we might as well get going. We've really fallen into this routine, huh? Bickering about the smallest things before making our way past the school gates, but as I follow closely behind her, I wish I could worry about something as simple as why that's the case. Like, come on, Mai, a maiden in love? There's no way I'm buying something like that, even if she said it herself. This world of ours is fickle, and there's not much that can be said with absolute certainty. The sky is blue, grass is green, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. Things like that. But the Ishihara Mai I know is a girl who takes the utmost pleasure in leaving people with no choice but to dance to her tune, right up until they've outlived their usefulness. She's unbelievable, isn't she? And unbelievably cold. So I always thought it was possible for someone like her to ever... And if she really is in love, then how the hell have I not noticed? After all, I'm supposed to be the one closest to her heart. I should be able to read her like an open book, or at least I used to be able to. So while I would really like to, I can't say it's something I don't want to know more about. It's really weird, isn't it? That we're like this now? We were once at each other's throats, but nowadays we walk home together, hands almost touching. When we stop at a crosswalk, waiting for the sign to change, I figure there's no time like the present. It's not that I meant to eavesdrop on you three, okay? I just couldn't help but overhear. Took you long enough, didn't it? But in here I thought the only romances you cared about were those in manga volumes. Don't change the subject. We've come this far, haven't we? So don't tell me you're still not past that whole love is for children phase. We're almost out of high school, Shizuka. Shizuka? Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce that. It's really quite a shame. Well, even if the sign changes, apparently she hasn't. Am I really that fun to tease? Yeah, if I wanted a lecture, I'd visit my mother. I'm only asking because I just don't want a third wheel, that's all. If you're looking for a chance to get all love struck on me, look somewhere else. Oh, there's no need to explain yourself. It's just unusual for you to take an interest in anyone else. You're usually so self-absorbed. It's a simple yes or no question, Mai. But after the last round of exams, I could see how that could be even hard for you. Maybe that was going too far. But so what? There's no way I could tell her the truth. Well, if you wanted to know more, all you had to do was ask. It's someone I've had my eye on for some time, you see. Unfortunately for us all, they're quite the character. Stubborn and dense as whole hell. But even so, I have my faith I can convince them to come around. As she says this, the world around us, that used to be so beautiful, for me, that world snaps into black and white from color. After all, if there's one thing Mai's good at, it's getting what she wants, with little regard for anything or anyone else. Oh well, at least the timing is perfect. Just as she finishes, we arrive at our respective apartments. I still can't believe she brought out the whole complex, just so she can move in next to me. Honestly, she's so annoying. But thankfully after that, I'm left to my own devices. I rummage through my bag for my keys and then enter switching on the lights. Then you got a nice place, look at that. Setting my things down, I change it to something more comfortable. Not that it matters, now that I've been met with this cruel twist of fate. Seriously. And with how intentionally vague she was being. I'd be reading too much into it, but with how she phrased it and everything, part of me is almost delusional enough to entertain the possibility that she's just teasing me like usual. And if that's the case, then maybe she's just being unbelievably coy for no reason. And if I multiplied that by my incredibly wishful thinking, then there's a 0.0001549% chance that I'm the one she likes. So even in my wildest dreams, the odds of her liking me back are slim to none, huh? But if I'm being honest, I should have seen this coming from a mile away. After all, Mai is going to be the head of the Ishihara group one day, and even if she wasn't, she's definitely the type to leverage something like marriage for power. And up until now, I was perfectly fine with that, wasn't I? Being invited to tea time years into the future, forced to listen to her complain about a loveless marriage, I was fine with all of it. As long as it meant I was still a part of her life. But if she really has someone she likes now, then as her best friend, I should want to support her, shouldn't I? Yeah, like hell I can do that when I still... It's funny, I never wanted to be friends with her to begin with, but now that we are, I've kept my mouth shut when it comes to how I feel. All out of the simple fear that I might lose something precious to me if I dare open it. It's not fair, it's really, really not fair, this unholy twist of fate, but I snap myself out of it. I'm an adult, you know, an adult. So shouldn't I know by now that nothing good comes of being alone with my thoughts? In a desperate attempt to take my mind off this, I stare down the untended mountain of clothes by the side of my dresser. Though I can't explain how or why, I get the feeling it's definitely taunting me. Seriously, why are we here just to suffer? Every week I have to do laundry. It is only with the heart that one can see rightly what is essential is invisible to the eye. Sorry, I don't know why I'm having such a problem reading that sentence. We are in Act 2 now. When I wake up, I'm trapped in a thick fog, one that stretches for miles and miles on end. Come on, there's got to be a handkerchief around here somewhere. I reach out and fumble around, just hoping to get my hands on something. Anything. But all I've come across are half-open manga volumes from yesterday's revere. On second thought, maybe staying up until 4 a.m. reading shoujo AI to distract myself from this miserable reality wasn't my brightest idea. Now, I'm trying to remember shoujo AI, that's like a Yuri novel, but it's like focusing more on the romance aspect of it, I believe. Hopefully I'm right about that. I cough weakly and pull out the drawers on my bedside table, grabbing a set and blowing my nose until I can actually think straight. Wait, weren't these a gift from... That aside, I'm tempted to suck it up and go to school. It's not as though we were graded based on attendance, just like in the real world, results are everything. And in this state, I'd only end up causing everyone trouble. It's better if I just borrow lecture notes from one of my classmates later. Still, that doesn't mean I'm allowing myself to waste the day away. I get up out of bed and brush my teeth before heading to the kitchen. Feed a cold, starve a fever, and all. Dang, that's a nice kitchen, too. What? Gosh, your place is better than mine. Once I'm there, I grab some oatmeal, honey, and cinnamon off the shelves and throw it in a bowl. Then I shove it in the microwave and wait. Of course I don't take my eyes off of it. The last thing I need right now is a repeat of my mistakes of the past. God knows it'd be a nightmare to clean up, especially now. After letting it cool, I dig in. Luckily, my sense of taste is intact, but even without that, the warmth is everything. It was something in my stomach I feel 1,000 times better. Almost good enough to be up and about. Almost. Even though I'm sick, the voice in my head just won't shut up, telling me to get some much-needed rest. Honestly, what's with that? I have half a mind not to listen, but as much as I hate to admit it, it's right. After last night, or this morning, I could definitely use some sleep, so I head back to my room and crawl under the covers. Apparently just making breakfast took way more out of me than I thought. A little while later, the knocking on my door doesn't seem to stop or even lessen. I'm not a light sleeper, so I assume it's been going on for a while, and whether I like it or not, there's only one person it could be. But rather than get up and answer the door, I reach around for the phone, noticing more than a few missed calls and texts from the same number. With one eye open, I managed to type out the words "go away" before shutting it back off, but I should have known it wouldn't be that easy. Not long after, the knocking stops, and I hear someone kick off their heels. She at least has the decency to leave the lights off when she enters. I won't pray for a miracle, but I still don't want her to see me like this. I'm a mess, and not even a hot one. You're sick? I force myself to sit up off the side of the bed, still half asleep. Thank you, Captain Obvious. Really, what would we ever do? What would we do without you? But with my voice as scratchy as it is, my usual sarcasm lacks its signature punch. I went ahead and made copies of the lecture notes. But if you're gonna be like that, then maybe I should just go home. Wow, really going for the jugular, aren't we? Oh, your fan club missed you, by the way. They were up in arms. Ko was especially frantic, trying to figure out just what kind of unspeakable tragedy could cause her beloved Shizuka to miss a day of school. It's too bad you weren't there to see it for yourself. But I suppose if you were there... Right, of course. Well, if that's all you came here to say... Honestly, you haven't changed a bit, have you? Always so eager to get rid of people. Instead, why not try using them for what they're worth? Besides, if you really wanted to be alone right now, you wouldn't have left your spare keys in the flower pot like you always do. Well, she was a little bit too tired to get out of bed anyways. Seriously, the nerve of some people. She knows that ever since I got out of middle school, I made a point not to rely on anyone else. But when the girl you offers to cook you dinner, what was I supposed to do? Say no? How is someone as annoying as her even allowed to exist? But thankfully, before I'm alone with my thoughts for too long, she comes back with a nice warm bowl of stew. I make a pass for it, but she swats my hand back and sits down next to me. And what do you think would happen if I let you try to feed yourself in that sorry state? Don't you think you've already pushed yourself enough? If this were the first or even the 5th time something like this has happened, I open my mouth to protest, but after a quick mental simulation, I hate to admit it, but she's right. I can barely think straight as it is. What if my hand slips and I end up knocking the bowl over? Still, I don't know where she gets off, treating me like some kind of child. Of course the stew is just a touch too hot. She has the honor of blowing on the spoon before unceremoniously shoving it in my mouth. This scene, it's a far cry from the stunning heroine lending a hand to the fearless and dashing prince in the darkest hour. If I didn't know any better, I'd say it was pulled right out of a shoujo manga. So it turns out you can teach an old dog new tricks. Oh, shut up. Who put you up to this anyways? Like I'd tell you that. That's strictly need-to-know information. And you don't need to know. She smiles innocently and bats her eyes, pushing another spoonful past her lips. Is that what you thought I'd say? Come on, Shizuka. I just want to take a moment here. I really like the interaction between these two. I think the dialogue is really well written. It really makes it believable to me. All right, I'll stop going out of the moment. We'll keep going. Why else would I be here? That kind of thing. Shouldn't it be obvious by now? You can argue all you like, but there's no one in this world who can make it on their own for long. Besides, I shouldn't need a reason to take care of one of my friends. Huh? No matter how many times she throws that word around, I still don't get it. Even though I was fine on my own, she just had to go and insist. She's just as stubborn as I am. I can't be mad when I've known that about her since the start. Ooh, we're doing a flashback. It's almost funny. At first I really thought you were all that, and that someone like me had no right to criticize or complain. You played the part of everyone's idol better than I could have. But it wasn't as though you stole it from me. Rather, it was never mine to begin with. So why? Why would you force them all to quit when they worked so hard to get here? Why would you say and do all those things just to... Oh, do you really think they had much of a chance? As things are now, they are bound to drop out on their own before long. All I'm doing is hastening nature's course. Their lives would be so much easier if they just let go of that silly little thing you call a dream. Or would you rather they suffer for the sake of you and your twisted ideals? Even when we're not exempt from the unwritten laws of nature. You may not like it, but this is a world where only the strong survive. Even so, if that's all you wanted, couldn't you have at least considered their feelings more? They all worked their butts off just to get this far, you know? And yet you forced their hand just like it was another Tuesday. If they're so fragile that the resolve you speak so highly of is shattered by a few unkind words, then they were bound to give up at the first sign of trouble. Be that as it may, throughout history, hasn't it been the duty of the blessed to help those in need of it? She quoting the French saying, noblesse oblige? Nobility obliges? So what if these are the ideals that no one in their right mind would come to cherish? Okay, so maybe I grew up watching one too many magical girl shows, but when it comes to being a hero, by now I'm past the point of return. There's no reason to mince my words. In the end, it's your choice to make. But I wonder how the others would react if they found out that the kindness you offer, like everything else about you, is a lie. That the Ishihara Mai that you adore is bitter and vindicative. Would give anything to have the normal, everyday life they take for granted. Oh? And what would you know about me? Just because I've conceded the moral high ground, you think you can make those empty threats? You must know that the future you want, that future requires a sacrifice of a few in exchange for the greater good. You must be aware of how exhausting it is keeping up this act. So, knowing all that, you would harbor no guilt in condemning me to living a lie? In the end, you're no different from the rest of them, forcing your own expectations onto people with no regard at all for what they might want for themselves. I'm not wrong, am I? Something like that would be cruel, wouldn't it? And awfully unfair to you. But even so, if that's what it takes to save them, then I'll gladly bear the weight of those sins. Say all that without even stopping to think twice. You really are quite something. Then would you fancy a wager? By your words, I'm sure you must dearly miss those classmates of yours. Even if they hadn't left just yet, if you win, then I'll take back what I've said and do everything in my power to ensure they're given a fighting chance. On the other hand, if you so happen to lose... Something wrong? You've been quiet for a while now. Too quiet. Oh, not that I mind, but usually you put up more of a fight. Makes me wonder if everything's alright. It's nothing. It's nothing. I seriously doubt anyone's ever said that and meant it. Even so, I'm better off asking her about anything else. And yet when she stares me down, I can't help but follow it with the most self-incriminating thing that comes to mind. With some of the things we do, don't you ever wonder if there's a point? Like if you'll know you'll ever get a second? Then why waste your time aiming for the top? I bet it's bothered you, hasn't it? Ever since we made that stupid bet, and yet you've never once asked me to let you win. Seriously? You should know by now that subtlety was never your strong suit, Shizuka. It's much easier to read between the lines when there are lines to read between. You could be right. Maybe it's not worth my while after all. But wouldn't it be incredibly dull for you if I threw the towel without even trying? I swallow another spoonful of stew before beating around the bush some more. That's just one example though. But I mean, if you're doing the same thing over and over, all the while expecting different results, or even if you do something once when you know exactly how things will end, isn't that the dictionary definition of madness? Oh, but if that's really the case, then we're all a little mad. Even when we think we know exactly what's going to come next, maybe that kind of thing is fine for now. We're still young and inexperienced. There's no need to be so pessimistic about what the future might hold. Really now, could you make it any more obvious? Actually, there's this Yuri manga I was reading yesterday, about a girl who wanted to be a novelist. She managed to write her first novel, but threw it away because she didn't think it was worth publishing. She felt it wasn't anything special, only the one-of-a-kind story that no one in their right mind would want to read. Of course, before it's lost forever, it falls into the hands of another girl, a classmate who's weirdly touched by it. She meets the main character the next day, saying that although it was a dark and tragic tale, she wanted to read more of her work regardless. However, the main character says she has nothing left to write. That's when the girl suggests they date, if just for the summer, so the other will have something to write about. And one by one, she pushes the main character to work through all of her past regrets. As the summer draws to a close, she even decides to write and publish a novel, her second. plot contrivances aside, I bet you're wondering how it ends. Whether she enjoys success as a novelist, whether she survives the twists and turns and end up together or not. But I have a feeling that you know that telling you all that outright would defeat the purpose. But even if you were to take a wild guess, that wouldn't make the story any less worth reading. It wouldn't change the validity of the characters or the problems they face or how hard they work to overcome them, nor would it strip the work of its deeper meaning. That's Ishihara Mai for you. Even though it's such an open-ended question, I get the feeling that she's already seen through me. In this world of ours, we can't say anything with certainty, can we? The sky is blue for now, but there's no telling what will be when we wake up tomorrow. And like it or not, you become someone irreplaceable to me. I'd hate to think of what could happen if you lost your way, so maybe the things you want to do and say aren't as pointless as you think. And maybe some of us are getting annoyed with having to wait around for you to say them. She leaves, but not before making me promise to get some proper bed rest and call her if I need anything. Later I find what's left over of the stew is packed neatly away into what little Tupperware I own. Not that I mind, but sometimes it's like she doesn't understand the implications at all. I seriously don't get it. How can she say all those embarrassing things to me without batting an eye? For a second, I really thought my heart was going to burst. Stupid Mai. If she did those kinds of things for anyone else, they'd almost certainly get the wrong idea. It's only because I know I have absolutely no chance with her that I don't. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in my soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Act 3. Dang, you got a nice place. What is up with this? I know she's rich, but it's like, still, you have a nice place. I know you're really only looking out for yourself or something to that effect, but thank you. It's Saturday, and by some miracle of God, or maybe it's the immune system I've carefully maintained through proper diet and exercise. Anyways, I'm better now. It's all no thanks to a certain someone. So that's why Mai is over at my apartment sampling the cookies I baked. And even though it's nothing special, she seems weirdly happy with this simple display of my gratitude. Okay. Oh, so now that you're right as rain, it's the weekend, you know? If you really wanted to thank me, there's some errands I've been meaning to run for a while now. I knew there had to be a catch. Fine, I'll meet you outside. It's times like this that I really miss the days when we weren't so close, even when I could tell her to get lost without a second thought, and normally I'd find some way to refuse her even now, but it's just for some reason I don't have it in me today. Even if I prefer the comfort of my own home to the great outdoors. I'm definitely not going along with this because I want to spend some more time with her, okay? Sure, whatever you say. What do you think? It's as good as a place to start as any to start our practice date, isn't it? Practice date? I'd like to pretend that I misheard her, but at this point, this is wishful thinking. You know, the world around you really is quite different when you have someone you like. Suddenly you're filled with a desire to partake in activities you once thought were extraneous. And you can only explain this inexplicable urge as the heart wanting what it wants. Okay, I get it. But if that's really all you want, you didn't have to drag me into it. Just go and ask one of those boys you keep rejecting. Try as I might, I don't really want to accept it. The idea that she has someone she likes, someone that isn't me, because I don't want today to be for practice. I want the real thing. But there's no way I can say that to her face. This is all I can do, make a mountain out of a molehill and continue to push her away. So that when it happens, maybe it'll hurt that much less. But that's one thing. Those boys would want to be here. You, on the other hand, act as though you'd rather be anywhere else than by my side. In those words of hers, I can't even find a fraction of malice, and yet, the girl, doesn't she know that nothing can be further from the truth? I'm mad, but only at myself. There's no two ways around it. Going along with this has to be one of the most self-destructive things I can do, but it's not like I have much of a choice. You're only here out of obligation, but I won't let that stop me from winning your heart. Besides, you could use the experience, couldn't you? There's a lot more to dating women than meets the eye. Or so I've heard. Wouldn't you agree? Oh, not that I'm arrogant enough to assume I'm your type? Come on, Shizuka. If that doesn't clue you into what I'm trying to pull here, nothing will. Once again, I'm really tempted. It wouldn't take much to set the record straight, but saying something like that here of all places, I have a feeling that would result in a fate far worse than even death. Already, as we... Oops. Oh, I'm sorry. Already as we idle in the center of the mall in disgust, there are several people who have stopped to take notice. Thankfully, all it takes is a glare from me and they're on their merry way. Now I understand. Had she come here alone or worse with a guy, it's not hard to see how things could become more trouble than they're worth. Well, that's Ishihara Mai for you. Knowing her, she definitely thought this far ahead before deciding to rope me in. Even though it's me and we're just friends, I still don't know whether they think really nothing of it. It's not like this is the first time it's happened either. As her best friend, I've been forced to play second fiddle to her whims more often than I'd like. Honestly, they should feel guilty for drawing this much attention to us. But with absolutely no regard for how much fun I'm currently having monologuing, she takes me by the hand and dragging me near a clothing store that's absolutely packed with people. Has she somehow forgotten I'm a grade A misanthrope? The last thing I want to do is jump headfirst into a crowd. You know, in the olden days, Windows displays weren't really a thing. They didn't have the technology to mass-produce glass, and so instead, they had to rely purely on their storefront and word of mouth. It's almost like we've come full circle, haven't we? We already know what stores we want to visit, and sometimes even what we want to buy. A good window display won't change a thing, really. Hardly anyone looks at these anymore, but yet they're still there out of tradition. Yeah. Not to sound disinterested, but you're telling me this because today, even in the midst of this world full of color, I want you to look at me. Only me. Eh? Come on, there's no way I'm gonna fall for something as stupid as that. Yet I can already feel my cheeks starting to redden. I think that's a line that will score pretty well with the judges. She squeezes my hand and something dark wells up inside of me, coiling around my heart. To have brought me here just to say something like that. She's beyond shameless. So of the 3.5 billion women on this planet, why did I have to go and fall in love with her? But as I plan out the intricate details of the pity party I'll be throwing myself once this wraps up, I'm whisked away into what I can only describe as my personal kryptonite. A cosplay shop? If being sexy was a crime, you'd be guilty as charged. And this one is almost sold out? You're kidding me, people are really into this? I give the package a once-over before putting it back on the shelves. On the other hand, I have a feline Really? You're making this fun? I have a feline we'd be perfect together. She thrusts the cat girl ensemble set in my hand and winks. What the hell is that supposed to mean? The leotard alone had me blushing, and the tale is, honestly, if I didn't know better, I'd say she's enjoying this. What she picks up next is something I've apparently been sneaking glances at for a while now, because she's as smug as ever. I didn't think you were the type to go for things like this. She pauses, holding it up to her chest. As if she's waiting for me to picture it, what she'd look like in that skimpy outfit. Ha! As if! There's no way I'd defile the sacred ties of our friendship like that. But I have to admit, Mai in that kind of outfit? Maybe I should have worn this yesterday and nursed you back to full health. She even does the air quotes as she reads out the stupid line in the packaging, but I'm really not that easy. Even if I'm a little touch-starved, and the girl I like is right there, if this is an informal declaration of war and this is my very pride as a woman is on the line, but if I let her win now, she'll never let me live it down. It really is going to be a long day after all. Once Mai finishes up with her window shopping, we drive to a nearby park for lunch. From the trunk of her car, she brings out a picnic basket with sandwiches. Thankfully, a certain someone has learned from her mistakes. This time, we avoid the crowd and head to a secluded area in the middle of the forest. She unfurls the blanket and lays everything out. It's a feast for a king! But that doesn't explain why my stomach had to start growling as if on cue. So now that we're all the way out here... Look, I get that it's on a need-to-know basis, and I don't need to know. But be that as it may, I'm only human, you know? This person I have a feeling there's way more to them than you're letting on. Come on, we both know I can keep a secret. You wouldn't be here if I couldn't. But it's more fun like this, isn't it? With a hint of mystery. Seriously, this again? Shouldn't you have figured it out by now? Who in their right mind would go on a date just for practice? You're really not letting this go, eh? Fine. For now, let's just call them Nameless Hero A. I told you before they're kind of stubborn. They're the type to cling to an ideal even when they know there's no chance of things working out in their favor. And then they'll somehow manage to defy the odds regardless. Though I'm not too keen on playing the part of a damsel in distress. That's how they saved me at a time when I didn't think I needed saving. I think that alone would be enough to make anyone fall in love. But maybe that was for the best. Even if it wasn't, I have no complaints. That person has a way of making you want to support them, even when you happen to stand right in their way. And well, they're awfully cute when they're mad. They'd hate if I said that, but the kind of thing only makes me want to tease them more. And most of all, there's someone who will tell you that kindness is a lie. But even so, I think they manage to be kind in their own way. Just how the hell am I supposed to compete with that? I don't know. It kind of almost sounds like, and maybe I'm totally wrong here, that she's talking about, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here, you. Just a thought. You know that they say if you hate someone, you'll be able to find fault with every little thing they do. Like, who does the guy over there think he is, eating a sandwich with his legs crossed? That sort of thing. I hate to admit it, but they were right. Without ever having met them, I can't say I hate them, but it's definitely something close. We finish our sandwiches, and I shake the crumbs off my hands before standing up. When she's done, she follows suit, rising to her feet, and a sudden gust of wind blows past us. While I'm able to react in the nick of time and hold down my skirt, no, if I'm not mistaken, she's doing this all on purpose. Now, I'd ask if you saw anything, but because it's you, well, maybe I don't mind. If this is really supposed to be practice for the real thing, then shouldn't you be taking it seriously? All day she's been toying with a knife in my chest, driving it as deep as it'll go. So to hell with it all. No matter who it is you like, I think they'd want to see the real you more than anything else. And if you really do like this person, wouldn't you want them to like you for you? If I was with them, I'd sure as hell want to know what I'm getting myself into. Otherwise, all you're doing is wasting their time. It's not like you've ever cared about what anyone else wants. Though I say such harsh things to her, all Mai does is smile in return. Now there's a Shizuka we know and love. Maybe you're right. I've gotten a little carried away, haven't I? So what do you plan on doing about it? Nothing, of course. I know my place here, so there's nothing I can do about it. Even so, you've had your fun, haven't you? So it's high time you realize I'm not just some friend A for you to toy with as you see fit. But even if I can manage to say that much, the words I really want to say, those 3 words just won't come out. Well, I did drag you into this on the pretense of experience, didn't I? So I suppose it's only fair that I let you make as many selfish requests of me as your heart desires. You know, Shizuka, you're allowed to be more honest with what you want. How you were able to whip the 6 lowest scores in our year into shape and turn them into decent students capable of passing the midterm exams, that's something I'll never know. And to top it off, you managed to beat me. So whether it was through grit and perseverance or simply sheer dumb luck, congratulations. You've granted them a narrow reprieve, but this high school really isn't for everyone, you know. Students who consistently fail to meet expectations will be asked to withdraw from enrollment, whether we like it or not. You know, the way you phrased it, it almost makes it seem like you never actually wanted them to drop out, but all I did was save myself. What they do next is up to them, and neither you nor I have the right to interfere. So that's that. Was I wrong to hope that you would? And here I thought, I heard there was someone here foolish enough to masquerade as a hero of justice, someone without a lick of common sense. You were so mad on behalf of people you hardly even knew. I thought for sure that it had to be you, so I played along with your little farce. But when given the choice, you're still opting for the lesser of 2 evils. Like all you want is to absolve yourself of responsibility and move on. Hey, they used it! I'm so glad I was right about that. Noblesse oblige. Do you think that's a concept often thrown around by people our age? I'm a really big fan of the Eden of the East anime, if you've ever watched that, and they use that pretty frequently. It's kind of a big point of the show. So I love that quote. I love hearing it, especially in games or just... I always think of Eden of the East. This world of ours is a cruel place, well beyond repair. Such a defective product, I have half a mind to ask what it is even approved for launch. Even so, it's so unspoken truth that good always triumphs over evil. And complaining about the hand you're dealt, isn't that the kind of thing cheap? Isn't that kind of thing cheap? All we can do is play the game as best as we can. In the end, it's not like I can make any real difference. But even if I can force the world to take even a single step in the right direction, that's enough for now. I wouldn't call myself anything as heavy-handed as that. In fact, it's been a while since I have. So who the hell told her? All I said was, it's their choice. If they want to give up after coming this far and transfer out, who am I to stop them? Even if that's exactly what I want to do. But if someone's struggling, then I guess I have no choice but to lend a helping hand. That's what separates the two of us. If you think there's nothing that can be done to help someone, then I'll prove to you that they can still be saved. So it really is just as I thought. Don't look so surprised. You're familiar with how a date is supposed to end, no? Of course you have every right to refuse my advances, but I bet you're just starved for touch, aren't you? After lunch, we decided to call it a day and went back to our respective apartments. Or so I thought. But here, no one can see us. Because of that, I'm sure of it. Right now, Ishihara Mai isn't putting on any kind of act. She's dead serious, and like hell I can turn her down. Even if she's only doing this under the guise of practice, even if she knows I can't say no to her, I can't have her heart, then at least can't I have this? But if I take advantage of this, then in the end I'm even worse than she is. But setting all that aside, in a rare spell of confidence, I inch closer, giving her ample time to push me away. But she doesn't. Our lips even touch, and I expect her to pull away, but she doesn't. In fact, if anything, she's leaning into it. And I kind of hate it. It's unfair. I hate how good this feels when I know full well that I'm not the one she likes. It's a luxury I can't afford and one I don't deserve. And I force myself to indulge it in all the same, because it's the only chance I'll ever get. When we started, I thought she was doing this out of want, out of need. That's what she sought, was the physicality of all of it. So even if it was with someone like me, but now I'm not so sure. She lets me catch my breath and we keep going. But how can I do that with my focus is split between her and whatever the hell this is supposed to mean? It hurts. And I'm supposed to be better than this. At first, I really thought I could live with myself if it happened. Then I could do nothing, even stand idly by and watch her fall in love with someone else. I thought I could support her if that happened. But now I realize just how wrong I was. It was never going to be that simple. And I'm being way too obvious. Mai has to have figured out I like her by now, if not sooner. So was today? Was this whole practice date thing all an elaborate ruse for my benefit? If that's the case, then this is her way of telling me that. This time, I'm convinced I'm not just overthinking it. After all, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. Apparently it does, because she's been very obvious about it. But when her hand slips under my shirt, whoa, I work up the courage to stop her. It wouldn't feel right. Taking that step when there's so much we have yet to work out. That's enough practicing for one night, don't you think? Besides, that kind of thing should be reserved for the person you like. And it's getting kind of late, so I'm gonna sleep. I crawl into my bed, and instead of being disappointed and leaving like a normal person would, she slips under the covers with me and pulls me into a warm hug, not one to take no for an answer. But that's tomorrow's problem. All this time, do you think you really are as dense as they come? The voice of the sea is seductive, never ceasing, whispering, clamoring, murmuring, inviting to the soul to wander in abysses of solitude. Act 4. So like, remember that Yuri manga you kept pestering me to read? It's actually kind of cute. Oh, you mean the one with the bands, right? Yeah, that one. The poor main character, falling in love at first sight with her cool type senpai and listening to her songs every day after school on the rooftop. Then it's revealed that the love interest was just a substitute for the real vocalist. But then she actually joins the band for real, all to make the main character fall for her. Boy, that mangaka really doesn't pull her punches, huh? They didn't even get to go on a proper date before the other girl showed up out of nowhere. Like seriously, who the hell does she think she is? She left the band on a whim saying it wasn't for her. But now they've got someone to take her place. She wants to throw a wrench in their lovey-dovey plans. Whoa, Yumiko, don't you think you're getting a little too into it? Though, seeing you this passionate, well, I get it. These kinds of things can be annoying even if they keep you on your toes. But if you're that overeager, people will get the wrong idea, you know? Yeah, maybe you're right. It's easier to accept that kind of thing as a story, but that's only because it's a story. It is cute, isn't it? With the things as they are, it can't really ever be anything more than that. We're told we live in more accepting times, but a lot of people will say something because it's the appropriate thing to say. It's not like they actually believe it. They'll say that they welcome everyone regardless, and then they'll tell you discrimination doesn't exist or that it shouldn't. But sometimes that's the whole talk, and they're only doing it so they can go home and pat themselves on the back. Luckily, we both have boyfriends, you know, but hypothetically, Yumiko, what if you were gay? and you did something stupid like take a calculated risk and come out to your closest friends. But the next day you come to school and everyone in class is asking you if it's true that you like girls instead of boys. And now when you go to the locker rooms to get changed, all the girls ask you to close your eyes until they're done changing. Like, it's not like that. We have self-control too, you know. Anyways, it's not as though you'll lust after everyone, though you can't say it's never happened. But when it has, you probably wallowed in shame and cursed yourself for being such a despicable human for hours on end. So suddenly everyone's treating you like you're on the FBI's most wanted. And the few that aren't only look at you with pity. But on the other hand, aside from the societal pressure, do you think you could handle it? Dating a girl, I mean? They say women are complicated creatures. It's true. Well, it would be entertaining to say the least. Men are quite simple to deal with. Sometimes. That's exactly what makes them dull and uninteresting. On the other hand, women, a slow, casual romance that starts out with no strings attached. Both parties involved understand that nothing will ever come of it, because the second they're found out, it'll come apart at the seams. They have their image to maintain after all. Even so, naturally the balance of power between them will start to shift. So in the end, it's a little more than toying with someone, using them as you see fit, until they've completely and totally fallen for you. And once you're done with them, you're free to break their heart in whatever wicked way you want. Maybe those two were right, and this was taking it too far. But what other choice did I have? It's hypocritical, isn't it? Roll the flag I give you, Shizuka. I haven't managed to change either. This is still the only way I know how to do things. So even if the end justified the means, I'm sorry. Up until now, I was so convinced that yesterday meant something, but was that all it was to her? A way to kill time? Some cheap entertainment? Maybe she's right. I wanted her to break from the status quo. Not to add fuel to the fire like that, but I was wrong to ever expect anything else. I mean, Mai's family is officially richer than God, and if word got out that their only daughter was seeing a girl, even leaving out what her parents would think, the press would rip them to shreds like the hungry bastards they are. And she said that it was just for practice. I can't get mad at her for that. Not when everything she said, no matter how cruel, is the absolute truth. So why? The tears start to well in my eyes, and I have only myself to blame, so why? Why does it hurt so much? It's pouring outside, but what if my hair gets wet? I really wish that was something I could worry about right now. The silver lining here is that because it's raining, no one can see me cry. I try to slam the doors shut as I enter my apartment, but somehow that just makes me feel even worse. At least I have the strength to change out of my uniform and dry myself off before shutting myself inside my room. It's nice and warm in my room. If nothing else, that makes it easy to bury my face into a towel and get everything out of my system. Am I really that easy to mess with? Part of me is unbelievably mad at her. There's no way she didn't know what she was doing, and to someone she called her dearest friend. But more than that, I'm mad at myself. She told me exactly what she wanted, that this was just practice, and like a fool, I chose to accept it. It's just those three, their words. It reminds me of the fateful day almost 3 years ago by now, of what my father said when he found out back in my final year of middle school. Even though I thought I made peaceful that if only I hadn't left my diary out in the open like that, turned to the exact page, I'd still be living at home right now. I wouldn't have been sent away like this. Seriously, where does he get off telling his own daughter to get out of his sight? Calling her one of those, as if she was a foreign entity, an alien, and not his own flesh and blood. My parents, the people I thought I could trust most in this world. Even though my grades were good, even though I was a model student and did everything I could to make them proud, I should be grateful that they were willing to cover my living expenses. I have a roof over my head, clean clothes, and there's almost always food on the table. But what I wanted, more than any of that, I was almost kind of happy when she moved in next door. Sure, it was a flagrant abuse of power, buying out an entire complex just for one apartment, but when she said she'd take care of everything so I wouldn't have to rely on anyone else, so I wouldn't have to call my father up and beg if rent was a little bit late, she called it a just compensation for being friends with her. But I think we both knew that it was the same kindness I myself had denounced with impunity. Impunity. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. Probably not. I didn't want to trust anyone then, and I still don't. Even so, it was nice being able to lean on someone for a change. If only I knew that it was doomed from the start, bound to fail, and yet I thought we could. Hope is like that, isn't it? Such a dangerous, stupid thing. God only knows how it's legal. It's worse than any drug, and one that I should have never let myself take. So that's what they mean when they say love is blind. But none of this is news to me. And that's the strange part. It wasn't her act that I fell for. It was the real thing. The cunning, sadistic Mai with her twisted sense of justice. A girl embittered by the weight of the world on her shoulders, and yet forced to play the part of an angel. She's seriously the worst, isn't she? So then, why do I feel so hollow just thinking about her? I have no right to. And yet, what I really want to do right now is ask her who the hell she thinks she is. It's ironic. All this time I've been far too concerned with what could become of our friendship if I crossed that line, so I can't stand it. How could she say those things without a care in the world? Was it what we had really so easy, so meaningless for her to throw away just like that? Then I really don't care. The words I've carefully kept under lock and key. As far as I'm concerned, she's already burnt that bridge. There's nothing stopping me from trampling over the ashes. So in the end, there's only one person I couldn't save, was myself. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. His act being 7 ages. But when I arrive at the school the following morning, someone's waiting for me at the gates. She's tapping her foot on the floor like an anxious child, arms firmly crossed. And I hate to say it, but she looks vaguely familiar. No, wait, I definitely know this girl. Every exam season, I managed to place first in overall rankings. Through sheer power of will, Mai's consistently a close second. Enlisted right below both of our names, the insufferable and uptight student council president, Toyama Ko. And even though she's ranked 3rd, she can't shoot lightning from her fingertips or anything. Seriously, what's up with that? I knew I should have gone to Tokiwadai? Hopefully one of those was right. Anyways, I'm about to completely ignore her presence when she has a coughing fit and then looks at me with those serious eyes. Don't just walk past me like you've forgotten who I am. Kawamura Shizuka. Well, it's no secret that you and I have never been the best of friends, so even so, at a time like this... Look, as much as I'd love to let you drag this out, some of us have places to be, things to do, you know? If it's a fight you want, it's a fight you'll get. Or if you're having trouble in calculus and you want to work on your homework together, whatever it is, would it kill you to hurry this up? I'm trying to do you a favor, you know? The least you could do is play along. And for the record, there's no way I'd ever come to you for help. Right. Well, get on with it. Seriously, I can't believe I'm doing this. That pretty boy in the freshman class, Yagami Rin, rumor has it that he's planning on confessing to Mai this morning on the rooftop. And you're telling me this because? Yeah, like I need to know the reason. If there's someone Mai could reasonably be interested in, it's him. He's made it this far, so he's smart enough to get a seat at any major university. What's worse than all of that is, judging by how the girls in the freshman class act around him, he's stupidly hot. And their families already do business together. He'd be able to make her look good in ways I can't. And if they went to the mall, the two of them wouldn't get any weird looks in the way that her and I would. Compared to me, someone like that is the full package. It's not like I thought saying these words to her would change anything, but still, I don't stand a chance. If I had even a tenth of what was going for him, you know, it's oddly reassuring. You were always good at everything, to the point where none of us could even compete. But even someone like you has her worries, eh? Anyways, just thought you'd like to know. As her friend, it's your responsibility to look out for her. Or something to that effect. You know, you're not nearly as good at hiding it as you think. Even though you did all that for my sake, I was never able to help you, or even thank you properly. In the end, this was all I could do. Muttering something underneath her breath, she enters the school by herself, no doubt leaving me behind so I can sort this out on my own. Honestly, of all the people I could have heard that from, it had to be her. She's had a stick up her butt ever since elementary school, and if I didn't know better, I'd say she hated my guts. But no matter what her reasons are, it's not like I have much of a choice. I know what I want to do. Without overthinking this, I head up to the rooftop. I'm half expecting Final Boss music to start playing when I find her leaning against the railing. Looking for someone? Don't flatter yourself. If even Ko knew about this, there's no way Mai didn't. The freshman girls couldn't stop gossiping about this super hot Ikemen on the rooftop. So I ditched homeroom to come check it out, but... Oh, if you're looking for Rin, you just missed him. You could have caught him had Ko just stuck to the script like I told her. And after all I went through to set the scene up. But if memory serves, the boys' soccer team has practice after school today. If you needed him for something, I'm sure he could spare a few minutes in between drills. You gotta be kidding me, so I never had a chance? It's nothing like that. So, did you hear what he had to say? As one would prepare themselves for the recoil from firing a shotgun, I steel myself from her response. Of course, I turned him down. Oh, eh? But if there was anyone who was stubborn yet kind in their own way, someone who could save you against all odds, who could make you want to support them through thick and thin, if someone who fit that description was real to begin with, it'd have to be him, wouldn't it? Maybe you're right. But before I answer that, isn't there something you have to say? The old me, that spineless coward, she would find a way to beat around the bush even after coming this far. And coming from Mai, I could tell if those are meant to be words of encouragement or what. But here I go, tossing aside what's left of my pride. All those things the three of you said yesterday, they were about me, weren't they? And this weekend, we've been friends for 2 years, nothing more, nothing less. But it's fine to go further than that when it suits you, huh? You can say it was just practice, but don't we both know? You're not that dense. Even someone who is completely indifferent to you wouldn't be able to outlast your charm. It's not like someone you can use like that just because it's convenient for you. I held back for the sake of our friendship, but it doesn't really matter anymore. You knew what people would think of you and the things they'd say behind your back. Even so, you continued to wear the mask and do unspeakable things, because it was the only way you knew to survive. And yet when I found out, it's not like you ever tried to hide behind it. And you didn't hold it against me when you found out how powerless I truly was. So that's why, despite everything, I thought that was what you wanted most of all. To show your true colors, to bear everything before someone who would accept you. I'm not dumb enough to think this can be anything more than it is, but I really thought what we had was something special. Something real. Maybe that's why, even now, I still like you. Sorry, what was that? I forgot to start my recording, so if you don't mind repeating yourself. Harry Potter and the audacity of this. I know what she's gonna say. It takes every ounce of willpower I have just not to push her over the railing and send her flying into next week. Now then, as for the person I like, maybe it's better if I start from the beginning. With how you assume there's no way I could ever be that dense, I have to wonder how often you look in a mirror. After all, this should have been obvious from the start. I already told you I had no interest in men, and for one, Sonoko's hardly the type to bring something up like that out of the blue. And Yumiko wouldn't go out of her way to egg her on. She's passionate about fictional romance, but isn't nearly as interested in what's real. But wasn't it all just a little too perfect? They started talking right as you hid behind the lockers, and you telling me you weren't even a little suspicious? Oh, you're not slick, by the way. Your hair ends up sticking out when you crouch like that. It's a dead giveaway. And even if you felt you were far too flimsy a basis to accuse me of anything, don't you think there's a reason we're practically attached at the hip? Even when I was ready to go all the way with you. You still didn't get it, huh? No, to be precise. But that doesn't prove, it's not like if you're still in denial, then I suppose that makes two of us, having to watch you act like a fish out of water. Do you have the slightest idea of how frustrating that was? But I could forgive all of that in a heartbeat if you were only standing true to yourself, though that's hardly the case, isn't it? At first it was baffling. Why would you go to such lengths to help anyone indiscriminately, and yet cling to this abrasive personality of yours and refuse to make friends? But if I had already been hurt by the people closest to me, if they abandoned me like that, I would have no reason to trust or see the good in anyone else. I would want to let them into my life if it meant they could hurt me at the drop of a hat. So don't play dumb with me. Deep down, I bet you've known all along the truth behind what I've been up to. You've simply refused to acknowledge the obvious, because you're barely ready to trust, let alone love. But the level of careful planning and effort that went into this, and the number of people who have joined hands with me of their own accord, even those who hardly know you, only know of you. Maybe you were alone back then, but right now, you're surrounded by all these people you've saved and the fruits of your labor. So don't you think you've played the fool for long enough? Eh? Look, I might like you, but that doesn't mean, even if I only expected the worst from this, even if you think I've just been willfully ignorant this whole time. Can you really say you're any better? No, you're right. To use your fears against you like that and make Yumiko and Sonoko say all those horrible things, you trusted me enough to tell me everything that happened to you, and all I did was use your fears against you. And even if I wanted to pretend that the ends justified the means, I still made Yumiko and Sonoka say all those horrible things, knowing you'd keep listening. There are people in this world who deeply care about you, you know? People who don't want to see you give up on your own happiness. And if I thought it came to that, you'd have to seriously consider what it is you want. After all, it's only when you're consumed by hatred and despair that you start to question if what you feel towards someone can really be called love. And then if that love is worth staking everything on. But ironically enough, I've hurt you all for the sake of my own selfish ends. I wanted to check up on you after that, come clean and tell you everything, but I thought there was no way you'd want to see me again, that it was too soon or much too late. It's funny, isn't it? I couldn't bring myself to knock. I made it all the way to your doorstep only to turn around and walk away. It wasn't until this morning that I realized how cowardly I was being. Deep down, I didn't want to face you or explain anything, because I knew the second I did, you would come to hate me for real. I really am the worst. So if it's okay if you want me out of your life for good, because I won't apologize or make excuses. This is the only way I know how to do things after all. Even so, don't you think it was a little much? All these over-the-top schemes? Dragging everyone else into this? It's not like anyone was stopping you from saying those words first. If that's really all you wanted, then don't you think you could have asked? And how, pray tell, do you think that would have gone? If it really was that simple, I wouldn't have pushed you this far. If I had simply bowed my head and asked you to go out with me, if we became one of those normal couples, going on dates, feeding each other lunch, frolicking in the nearby park before spending the night together, that happiness, no matter how precious, would surely fade at the first sign of trouble. With me as the sparrow, I thought you'd be fine, but the happy prince never thought twice of himself. The Kawamura Shizuka, who always put others first, who can never seem to prioritize the things she wants. If my parents would disapprove, or my image was at stake, what do you think she would do? I once mistook your selfishness for naivety, for being naive, and the way you rush in head first to help people even when you have nothing to gain. I can't say I hate that about you. Even so, you're only here now because you threw that kind of caution to the wind. You, better than anyone else, know that there are people who will never accept it. Sometimes even the people close to us, who we thought we could trust the most. So you get it now, don't you? I nod, embarrassed. Maybe in my haste I've assumed too much. We've been at each other's throats this whole time, but for the wrong reasons. Did it say, hold up, let me go back. Did it say for the wrong reasons? Oh, but I can't find my mouse. Oh, there it is. But not for the wrong reasons. Oh, okay. Just want to make sure I read that right. Courtesy and politeness, those kinds of things have no place where we're headed. I exhausted every other possible avenue. That's why it had to be like this. Because I don't care if the whole world stands in my way. I want to know that no matter what happens, you'll see this through until the bitter end. That you won't just cave to the powers that be. This world is already little more than a playground for the rich and powerful. It would be wrong for someone like me to want to change anything. You might even call something like that a fool's errand. Luckily, I found quite the fool. Someone who's kind in her own way despite calling kindness a lie. Someone who desperately wants to become the hero of her own story and won't settle for anything less. For her sake, I'll gladly play the villain. Because for the longest time, the one I've liked is you, Shizuka. It's you. It's always been you. By now, she's crying, and I want to hate her for every stupid thing she's done. I really do. But I know as well as she does that pushing her away now would put us right back at square one. It wouldn't solve anything. So without a second thought, I lend her the sleeves of my cardigan to wipe her tears away with. And then I pull her into my arms, let her cling to me, if just for a moment. Maybe I'm just overthinking it, but there's no way to know that someone likes you back with that absolute certainty. Even if all the signs are there. And for her, that's only the tip of the iceberg. If that's the case, then maybe, just maybe, she's no less scared as I am about all this. For the time being, that's enough for me to set aside the torches and pitchforks and enjoy this for what it is. But there's still one thing. So, how'd you manage to rope Ko into this anyways? Like, it's obvious she has the whole school at her beck and call, the admin included, but Ko? Oh, that? It was easy, like breaking a toothpick. Remember, we were first and second in the student council elections last year, but neither of us wanted to deal with all the grueling formalities. Oddly enough, that meant the post fell to one person who actually wanted it, a candidate who received all of three total votes, who would have likely become the laughingstock of the whole school if not for that. Now, if you were in her position and you went about life preaching of decency and honor, don't you think you'd just be dying for a chance to pay it all back? So that's how it is. But what about Sonoken? It took some convincing, but it was never as though they were diametrically opposed. They were worried about it, you know? Maybe even more than I was. About whether or not you'd be able to stand hearing all the awful things I had them say. They are seeing each other after all. The whole thing about them having boyfriends was nothing more than a front. So you still haven't given me your answer. I'm tempted to leave it at that and give her a taste of her own medicine. Let her understand how it feels to be toyed with. I want to hate you. And after everything you've done, I should. Maybe I'm still blinded because I can't. But don't go getting the wrong idea. Just because I don't hate you, that doesn't mean I can forgive you. I hold my hand out to her, expecting her to take it. Even with a proper hero, a villain, and a happy ending, do you really think a story like that would ever sell? You're conveniently leaving out the part where the villain gets her long-awaited redemption arc. She intertwines our fingers and we lean on the railing, staring off into the open sky. But you know, I really do like you, Shizuka. Yeah, I know. I like you too. And what was that? Sorry, this time I really couldn't hear you. I said I like you. And if it's really necessary, she holds up her phone and plays the audio back for me to hear. Now, even if you wanted to, you can't take it back. Stop ruining the moment. Would it kill you to ask nicely for once? If that's what you really wanted, then I might be willing to, you know... Seriously, you're always so underhanded. But I really am serious, you know? I wouldn't trade this for the world. Because I don't care if the world stands in my way. I want to know that no matter what happens, you'll see the fruits at the bitter end. I really hope it never comes to that. Even if Mai's not a good person, she's someone I've come to respect, and in spite of everything, I still want to trust her. So I don't want to promise too much to only end up disappointing her, and more than that, I don't want to lose sight of the things most precious to me. So can I really let myself be as selfish as she wants me to be? The kind of strength Mai has, the tenacity to face the future head on. Can I even begin to make that my own? Am I really worthy of being the person closest to her heart? Maybe all I'm good for is thinking up of these kinds of questions. Questions that I doubt even God Almighty would be able to answer. Even so, I'll do my best until I can stand beside her with pride, until I can say with confidence that somewhere only I can be reserved for me and me alone. Because isn't that what a hero would do? She already has someone she likes? End. Oh, cool. There's a little after thing. Okay. Let me say hello and then properly thank you for making it all the way through this nightmare of a visual novel. Okay, so I'm going to kind of like throw in maybe some of my thoughts as I'm reading this. Personally, I thought this was a really well done visual novel. Obviously, you know, it's not like the greatest thing out there, of course, but I thought it was really good for what it was trying to accomplish. I thought everything was really well done. I think the dialogue was definitely the best. Like, I'm running out of breath just trying to keep talking through that whole thing. Like, there was just so much, like, interesting dialogue. It felt like a really good back and forth a lot of the time. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Holo from Spice and Wolf. She's just really, like, smart and kind of catches you off guard sometimes with the things she says. And the way she, like, puts an idea into your head. That's kind of what it reminded me of. And so for me, I love Spice and Wolf. So if I compare you to Spice and Wolf, that means it's really good. She already has someone she likes. Started off as purely for practice, but after finishing the very first draft and realizing that Yuri Game Jam was going on, I figured, why not try to cobble something together? Unfortunately, if it wasn't painfully obvious, stringing words together isn't what I'd like to think are coherent sentences is just about the only thing I can do. I had to borrow background music and backgrounds and character sprites and the I think that's the interface that you're looking at. But self-depreciation aside, the storyline is very straightforward. Shizuka has a quarter-life crisis, falls ill, recovers, goes on a date. We get bits and pieces of her backstory, and then her and Mai bicker before the happy ending. I want it to be the simplest possible story I could be satisfied with writing. And I think you accomplished that. Like, absolutely. I think you did a great job. I have no clue who I'm talking to, by the way. Let's see. Okay, and then even though that was the goal, the critic in me wouldn't shut up about cliches and plot contrivances and plot holes and loose threads until I had thrown in detail after detail and an embarrassing amount of heart into it. Now that I think about it, I have to wonder if I ended up creating more problems than I solved. I mean, I don't think so. I mean, I think if one thing was a little bit much is maybe how rich she was. The fact that she bought that whole area, the whole building. Maybe that's a little bit far-fetched if you were gonna really nitpick at things. But everything else, I think, seemed fine. Because of that, I sincerely apologize if any of the themes or ideas presented seem forced or incongruent. I don't know how to pronounce that word. I'm just going to be honest with the story as a whole. Part of me thought certain scenes, like the beginning of Act 5, might be jarring or ruin any carefully constructed tension, and yet I left it all in. So even when she already has someone she likes, has more flaws than I can count on two hands. I hope it made you smile, laugh, and maybe even cry. I'm not really one to cry too often. It has to be really, like, I have to be, like, so into it. But there was definitely a lot of moments that made me smile or laugh, for sure. I hope it spoke to you in some small way. I'm rereading over all this and it sounds way too pretentious, but thank you. Thank you for giving this a chance and indulging me for this long, and I really hope it was well worth your while. A few last things. If you do have any comments or feedback of any kind, I appreciate hearing what you have to say, whether if it's in the comments of the game page or on Twitter. You can even rate the game if you want. I'm forced to go on Reddit here and there so I can deal with the occasional unkind word or 1 star. Hold up. How do I hide the interface as H? Okay. I'm forced to go on Reddit here and there so I can deal with an occasional unkind word or 1 star review. Secondly, if you did like the story simple as it was, I hope you look forward to next year's project. Absolutely. You can press the H key. Oh. And then there's me, who doesn't. Also, feel free to skip reading this entirely. You know, it doesn't fit within the 1920 by 1080 window. I'm actually playing on a 1440p monitor, too. Anyways. Why is the gallery locked? Anyways, guys, that was actually a really good novel. I mean, it was very... I had to talk a lot, I feel like. I tried to throw some comments in there, here and there, but there was just a lot to read. But overall, really good. I'll definitely write a full review on the itch.io page of more of my thoughts, because I'm so much better at writing them down than I am talking about them. But overall, really well done. I liked it. I thought this was a great entry to the Yuri novel jam. Really good. That's all I'm going to say for now. But anyways, guys, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.